Hi guys, and today I'm at the wheel of a BMW 3 Series 2019 model year. I've been wanting to try this for a while, but this isn't just any 3 Series, this is the 330e, the emphasis being on E. That doesn't mean it's an electric car. It's not electric, it's a hybrid. So it's got petrol and electric motor in this car. This is the M Sport, this particular car, and prices for this start from £39,000, about £40,000 with delivery and everything. To be honest, I think for the 330 range, they're about 37 up to about 42 or something like that. But you know, by the time you start to add all the options and everything, I think the on-the-road price of this car, this particular test car, is 47,000 nearly. I think pretty much more than 47,000 pounds. And I'll come back to what sort of kit it's got on it. I want to talk a little bit more about the drivetrain. So electric and petrol. The petrol engine is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo with 181 horsepower and 221 pounds-foot of torque. That's combined with 111 brake horsepower, electric motor with 195 pounds-foot of torque, sitting at the front of the 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now, somehow the combination is just not adding that figure, but it actually works out to about 250 brake horsepower and 310 pounds-foot of torque. Now, if I go into sports mode here, there is a series of settings: standard, individual, configure individual, fair enough. There's a one here called extra boost. And when you go into extra boost, what you can actually do is get another 40 brake horsepower. Only for 10 seconds, mind, but that takes it up to 290 brake horsepower. It's like a turbo boost button, except it's the electric motor. That's if you've got enough charge. The whole thing will give you 0 to 60. And when does that happen? That happens automatically when it's that. When you stamp your foot down, either from rest or from kick down, that automatically happens for 10 seconds. It gives you a 0 to 62 miles per hour time in 5.9 seconds at top speed of 143 miles per hour. Comparable to a 330. I think the 330 is just slightly quicker, but certainly a higher top speed, 155 miles per hour. What isn't comparable to a 330 is the claimed fuel consumption, 1.4 up to 1.4 liters per 100, which is 200 miles per gallon. I find that very hard to believe, honestly. Okay. I imagine the mid consumption is given as 5.6 liters per 100, 50 miles per gallon. I think that's probably more realistic and more achievable. What probably is achievable is the CO2 figure of just 39 grams per kilometer, which is actually extraordinary, considering that it does try. So, for example, I've done 54 miles in this car so far. I'm going to take it out for a drive now with you guys. And about half, just under half, 24.4 of that has been pure electric. So half the time the engine has been off and it's been running on pure electric. It does up to 41 miles on electric power only. You can actually put it into E mode. Best to just leave it in auto H and it just figures everything out for itself. By the way, it can get up to motorway speeds in electric power only. Talking of figuring things out by itself, oh my god, the level of sophistication in this thing is absolutely mind-boggling. What it does, it has an anticipatory drive system. So once you've set the sat nav and it knows where you're going, then what it tries to do is to work out how much battery consumption you should use now and how much you should reserve for later. So, for example, if you're on the motorway, say, well, you don't need much battery consumption, but later on you're going to be in a congested town where low emissions are desirable and quiet running is desirable. So we'll save the battery until you get there, and then we'll use it. I mean, what the heck? That is absolutely, utterly bonkers. I'm going to turn it on, and the entire instrument panel is digital. Usually it just gives you a nav, because the nav aspect of this car apparently is very important to it, so it does all of those things. How is the practicality of this car? So what's happened with the boot is that the boot is slightly smaller than you would expect. That's because the floor is higher, and that's because you're thinking the battery pack is there, right? Nearly. What they've had to do is they've moved the petrol tank to underneath the boot, and they put the batteries underneath the seat, which makes sense because big heavy things lower down behind the seat and towards the center of the car, better weight balance, lower center of gravity. The mass of the battery stays always with the petrol consumption. Petrol, obviously, mass goes up and down depending on how much fuel you've got. How is it? But it's perfectly usable boot. How is it the rear compartment? Rear compartment for me, absolutely fine. I got into it. I've got knee room. I've got shin room. Feet are okay. Headroom is okay. In the back, you have actually 2 micro USB ports and AC controls for the back. It's got dual zone climate control on this thing, and you've got, of course, center armrest with cup holders, and of course, Isofix, chassis, anchor points, and all the rest of it. Don't know what it's doing now because it does all kinds of things. It's way too clever, this car. So I just want to run quickly through the spec. I mean, it's loaded up, and the thing is, like, you don't want to buy a standard BMW, do you? Because you don't want a bare bones BMW. So for example, this one has got a visibility package, which is high beam assist, BMW laser lights. That's about £1,900. It's got technology package with head-up display, which is full color, big graphic, very, very nice to use. Loudspeaker, Harman Kardon sound system, very good sound system in this car. I've enjoyed that a lot. Bluetooth wireless charging inside here. You've got Wi-Fi hotspot and gesture control. That's that thing that does all of that and all the rest of it. The first one, visibility package, was £1,500. The technology package was £1,900. That's the one I've just mentioned. The next one, it's the premium package, which is £1,700, and that includes electric glass sunroof, front seats. This has got heated seats, heated steering wheel, which is operated from this button here, and lumbar support for the driver and front passenger. And then it's got comfort pack, which is £990. That's the steering wheel heating, and the boot lid is powered. Comfort access, extended storage, all the rest of it. And that's what more do you want? So the question is, how does it work in the real world? Well, I mean, this is the thing. I kept meaning to charge the car to plug it in because it's a plug-in hybrid, but it's the typical problem with electric car ownership. Like wherever I went, either it was in the right place, or didn't want to park it there, or it was crowded, or there were always people there, or I had to I would have to faff with all the taking out the plug, and it would be a slow charger. And you know what? In the end, I never got around to doing it. So I've been relying on hybrid. So the question is, how much battery power do I have? Let me find out. Hello, BMW.
Hello. What can I help you with?
How much battery do I have left?
The battery is 2% charged.
Only 2% charge. Well, okay, let's go for a drive. Hopefully the hybrid will pick it up, and maybe we'll be able to give that extra boost a go. So here we are driving along in the BMW 330e. How does it feel? I mean, it's very imperceptible, to be honest, around town. I just checked the miles per gallon. I've done about 26 miles per gallon and mostly city driving. So very, very far short of the even the 50 miles per gallon. And it does make you wonder that if you're being entirely selfish as far as emissions are concerned, you might as well be better off with a regular 330. But to drive, I mean, there isn't a lot in it. One of the things is that this definitely feels like I've owned BMWs in the past, and definitely 3 Series to me always feels like coming home, and I think this one definitely has that. Let's open up a bit. So it's in normal mode now, so let's put it into sports actually. Yeah, extra boost in sports. Wow, okay, it's quick. As you would expect from a BMW with an M Sport badge on it. Did you ever imagine having an M Sport badge on something that you had to plug in? Extraordinary. Anyway, so it does feel like coming home, and despite the fact that all of this modernity and all this complexity, the gesture control and the voice, you can talk to it like Knight Rider would, it still feels like a BMW. It still feels like home. Ride is actually very good, both in normal and in sport, even on these rather bumpy roads. It's quite responsive, quite a good turn in. Steering, everything meets out, weightens up in sports mode, obviously. Suspension is obviously getting a bit more bouncy and chucking me around. Whoa, here we go. So, obviously that's happened because it's now in sports mode. In normal mode, it's absolutely fine. Brakes are very reassuring, and it feels really tight, really solid, really good quality, just as you would expect, a BMW to feel. It feels quite bulky though, it does. It doesn't feel like as light on its feet as you might have expected a 3 Series to do. And that's understandable, given the fact that it's carrying a lot of extra weight in terms of those batteries. I would say that it's a good looking car as well. I mean, that really took me by surprise, is how handsome this thing is. Because I've always felt that you have the original E30 3 Series, which I own, which I think is the template, and then you've got, I think the second best looking one is probably, let's use the paddles, good, decent response from the paddles. The second best looking one is the E46, I reckon, especially in coupe guys. I thought that was a really good looking car. And then the last one, just before this, I thought they'd done a pretty good job with that, but this one I think is even better. The side profile, the little cuts in the flanks, just to give it a little bit more character, I think is really, really good. So I would put this up as probably the third best looking 3 Series ever, if not maybe the second best looking actually. And it was a bit weird because they had the 4 Series with the last one. They introduced the 4 Series, which was like the 2-door version of the 3 Series. Bizarrely, 2 doors. The 4 Series is the 2-door, the 3 Series is the 4-door. And then they came out with a 4 Series Grand Coupe, which then had 4 doors. How utterly confusing is that? Particularly when the 4 Series 4-door Grand Coupe was better looking than the 3 Series 4-door. That's really confusing. But I think what's happening now is because the new one is just about to be released, the new 4 Series, and I think they're going a completely different direction in terms of the looks of that thing. So I think that's probably a good idea. It's going to have a massive, elongated, grille at the front, real sort of nostril flaring sort of scenario. This one's got quite a nice arrangement, I think, that looks really nice, particularly blacked out on this grey and black car. So one thing I found is that it's because it's got a smaller fuel tank, if you put it in sports mode, you do end up charging the battery a little bit quicker than in hybrid, but your range starts to go down alarmingly quickly. So that's a little bit of a concern. And of course, if you leave it in hybrid, then it's a lot better, but then you don't get the sports settings. So sports setting for steering, transmission and suspension, perhaps. Although individual mode, normally I would turn everything into sports and keep the suspension in comfort. But you don't really have the option for that in this. Overall, I mean, it feels like home. It feels like a solid proposition. You want all the kit, you want all the toys to make it feel like a BMW charging battery. That's what it's just telling me now. And it's a nice size for the city as well. It's not too big. It's the biggest 3 Series, I'm sure. Although I think they probably retained the size over the last generation or so. But it's a compact, usable thing. The camera on it is fantastic, and it automatically, like a lot of stuff on this car, automatically anticipates when you might want to need it, might want to use it, and it will just come on. Like in traffic, if you're creeping up to a car, it'll just come on. Obviously in reverse, and it's a 360 with anticipatory things, so it'll figure out when to change angles and stuff like that. A lot of little touches like that, which really endear you to the car. So I really, really like it. It's really good. I don't know if I'd get the 330E. I think it's a bit of a faff and a lot of hassle. I just go for the 330 or the 330D if you do high mileage, and particularly because I think the 330D is about the same price, but the 330 is actually, I think it's a little bit cheaper, so I might well just go for that one. But it is a novel thing. It's interesting, of course, is the way it's going, and in terms of emission, it's extraordinary. So in that sense, it's a really good car. Overall, then, really good car. I think there's something not quite there with the drive. Something about it, it's just like, it feels like a BMW, it sounds, it looks like a BMW. There's just something, it responds, it goes, but there's just something a little bit lacking if you're only about the drive. If you're somebody that goes out, and does maybe want to take it on the track, bizarrely, you can do, why not? Or you want to go out, you regularly do drives on B roads that you really enjoy doing, yeah, maybe not. But if you do a lot of city stuff and you like the idea of a 3 Series, then maybe this is the way to go. So there you go, there's the review of the 3 Series 330E. It's a bit longish review than my normal ones, but because of the complexity of what this car has got on it, I thought it was well worth taking the time to go into that. I hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know what you think of the car, the review, me, anything else, weather, whatever, in the comments above, below, elsewhere. Make sure that you are following me on all of the channels, #BrownCarGuy, and if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, and of course tell all your friends to follow and subscribe too. That would be much appreciated. Thanks so much for watching. Until the next one.